Welcome to Mandia Trading, everyone. Today we're going to be looking at the Trade tab in the Thinkorswim platform. So under the All Products, you will have a section that says Underlying, which simply means underlying stock that you're looking at or underlying ticker symbol you're looking at. Now, this could be a single stock, it could be an ETF or futures that you can select under this symbol selector. And it shows us the underlying details of Wells Fargo. It shows us the last price. It shows us the net change, the bid ask, the sizes, the volume of the trades today here. And essentially this little drop down exposes you to more information about the stock if you wanted to see additional information in terms of the last size, the yield, 52-week high and lows. Under the underlying, you have the trade grid, which essentially shows you the best prices across multiple exchanges for any ticker symbol that you have selected in the symbol selector box. So you have AMD in here. It shows you the best bid and ask prices. Same thing for Wells Fargo, Bank of America. You see that data on the New York Exchange, NASDAQ. Under the trade grid, you're going to have the option chain, which shows you the different option series that you can pick from and decide whichever one you want to go with or purchase. If you click on any one of these series, click the drop down, it'll expand the options that you would be interested in. In this case, I clicked on the January 20th, 2023 option series, and it brings up the information for me in terms of the strike prices. I can determine how many strike prices it shows me at a time. On the left side, you have calls, right side, you have puts. So just keep that in mind. And then of course, these columns that you see with each option series are very customizable. You can go ahead and click that drop down, dictate what information this shows you. So if you wanted to have last size, it shows you the last size. The data set's basically changed. If you want to look at the mark, it shows you the mark. So you can change this information according to what you want to see in terms of the option chain that you're looking at. At the very middle, you have the strike prices. It goes from the lowest strike price to the highest strike price. You have the expiration date, and same thing for the call side. Whatever changes you make on this side is essentially reflect on the put side as well. So you don't have to click back and forth in order to enact the same changes. Under the options chain, you're going to have option statistics. You're going to have implied volatility, historical volatility. You have the VWAP as well. Implied volatility means the expected magnitude of change in the stock's future price as implied by the stock's option price. Historical volatility attempts to measure a security's potential price movement based upon the ranges of price movement a security has historically shown. The volume weighted average price is a measure of the underlying price based on the number of shares or contracts traded at different prices. So this is very good information to have whenever you're considering buying options or even just regular stock. You have the 52-week implied volatility high, 52-week implied volatility low, likewise for the historical volatilities. And then you have the trade analysis, which breaks down the volume of options traded. It breaks them down into calls, it breaks them down into puts, and it shows you the total number of options that have been traded for the day. And these numbers are dynamic, so they change as you go, especially within market hours. It breaks them down for you in terms of options traded at a bid price or below the bid price. It gives you that number for the calls, it gives you that number for the puts, and the total number of options as well. Traded at the ask or above the ask price, it breaks those numbers down for you and it shows you the respective percentages of these different categories compared to the total. Options traded between the market were about 41% traded between the bid and the ask. That's essentially what it means. Between the market is between the bid and the ask. And below that, you have the delta information, which breaks down the options in categories of delta values. So options that had a delta between 0 and 20 were about 33%, and it shows you the volume of those calls, volumes of those puts. Options that had delta values between 21 and 40 It basically shows you that particular percentage and the volume on both sides, the calls and puts, and the total. Under the totals, you would see the total number of options that had these delta values. It's about 32%. So looking at this, we can essentially conclude that the highest number of options that were traded on the market today had a delta between 21 to about 40. So this particular range of delta had the most liquidity. On the right side of this section, you're going to have the volume ratios that weigh the current trading days volumes against the volumes of the last 5 trading days. Now, the sizzle index is a ratio of the current day's trading volume of all options against the option volume of the last 5 trading days. The call sizzle index, likewise. Put sizzle index, same thing. And you're going to have the volatility sizzle, the stock sizzle, and then of course the put call ratio. This section right here breaks everything down for you in terms of puts and calls. Always a good section to look at. Under the today's option statistics, you will find the options time and sales section, which shows you the time that options were executed. It shows you today's biggest orders in terms of calls and puts. So in this case, the blue, like in this section here, refers to the calls, and the purple would be the puts. At the very top, it shows you the biggest orders that came in for puts and the biggest orders that came in for calls as well. Now, the columns in this section will show you the timestamp of these particular orders, the series, the quantity, price, the exchanges, the market bid ask. It shows you the delta at the time of execution, the implied volatility at the time of execution, and it shows you the price of the underlying stock at the time of execution, as well as the conditions, whether it was a spread or just a regular call or put. Another thing with this section is that you will see different colors in here. The different colors signify specific things. So the green color codings signifies options that were executed at the ask price or above the ask price. The red color coding will refer to options that were executed at the bid price or below the bid price. The white or gray color coding will essentially refer to options that were executed between the market. This section also comes with filters that allow you to filter through all this data. I know it's a lot of data to look at. So if you click on this filter button, it allows you to choose which side perhaps you want to look at. If you want to look at calls only, it filters out to show you only the calls. Notice how the option series are highlighted in blue. That refers to calls. So you can always choose to see what option chain you want to look at. You can choose the series. If you wanted to look at, let's say, November's expiration, you can do that as well. Scroll down. It'll only show you those November contracts. Click out of that. You can specify what strike price is. You can specify what exchange. By exchange, if you wanted to only look at options that were executed on the New York Stock Exchange, you can do likewise. It'll show you that information. Deselecting that will essentially take those filters off. Under the options time and sales, you're going to find product depth, which is a section that allows you to analyze the relationship between option prices and Greeks, volatility values, and other parameters. So when you look at this, I'm actually on the options tabs. You can dictate what you see in this graph. On the y-axis, it shows you the probability of this option being in the money, because that is what I have selected here. So if you wanted to look at a different data set, let's say probability out of the money against the strike price down here, it shows you that probability as well. So it only makes sense to look at the probability in the money. If you wanted to look at the implied volatility, you can use that parameter as well. If you wanted to look at all strike prices, this is where you would actually determine what strike prices you look at. You can also choose what series you show on this graph. You can say all, but it will have a lot of this information on the graph, and it looks great, but you won't see the fine detail of what's really going on the graph. So it's always a good measure to select which series you're looking at. So in this case, since we're looking at the January 2023, click on that. It shows us the relationship of the strike price against the implied volatility. If we change that to probability in the money, it shows us the information likewise. So the further out we go in terms of the strike price, the lower the probability of being in the money. And it just makes sense, of course, if you look at this. If you get a strike price that is kind of close to the current price of the stock, at that expiration date, you have a higher probability of the stock expiring in the money. Of course, at the bottom, you have the order entry tool. We already went over that, so just look at the previous videos if you wanted to look at the order entry tool functionality. But that's pretty much it on the old products. The active trader subtab was essentially made for intraday trading. It allows you to look at multiple ticker symbols and gives you a lot of functions right off of the screen itself. So you have the graph on the left side, the two graphs on the left side. On the right side, you have your big buttons, and then you have your active trading going on here. You see the ask size, price, and bid size, of course, along with the volume here. For the big buttons, you can always click buy, and it automatically creates an order for you. You can edit as need be. Sell will do the same thing. It will generate an order for you. If you wanted to make any changes to any default quantities or add some additional functions on this, you can click this little drop down button. It gives you quantity. You can specify 1 if you wanted to. If you click on auto send, it basically means that anytime you click one of these big buttons, it does not give you an option to edit your order. So using this right here, I would reserve it for experienced traders. That way you do not just accidentally make purchases or sells. You want to make sure that when you hit this button, at least you get something to confirm that order, or if you want to edit it. If you wanted to make any additional changes as far as look at some other functions, you can add different buttons from this gear icon. Just click on it. You can add item, and then you can hit OK. You see that function appear on that screen. So that basically caps up the video for us on the trade tab. If you liked the video, like, comment, subscribe.